From the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, to around the globe. You're listening to Shark Bite Biz, your exclusive place for business strategy, sales, marketing, and tech in the roaring 20s. And now, here's your host, David Strausser.
Welcome to the newest episode of Shark Bite Biz. I'm your glamorous host, David Strausser, and this is your place to learn how to grow a business during complete chaos. We got another great episode slated for you all today. First, though, remember, if you are watching us on YouTube, okay, you can join the channel. You can become a member of Shark Bite Biz. We have the Baby Shark plan for only $3 a month. Yes, you can join. We already have a couple dozen people that's joining, helping. It's amazing. But if you're like, hey, I don't want to keep giving money to YouTube, I understand. I got you there too. That's why I launched my own coffee brand, Dead House Coffee. And you can go right there, deadhousecoffee.com. Use the code SHARK, okay? Use the code SHARK. You get 20% off your orders for life if you go right now before the end of April, okay? All proceeds directly support us producing the biggest and best show we possibly can. Now, let's get back to today's regularly scheduled program. Health insurance is a major PITA. You know what I mean, a pain in the... It's so expensive, and when you actually use the coverage, sometimes you get sticker shock. It's kind of like, wait, I pay this each month, and you don't even cover that? You know, it's so crazy. And I think what's worse for employers is that many employees think poorly of their companies because of the limited options that the employees may have. But in reality, it's kind of what the market is dictating to the employers. There is only so much that the employers can do. I am seeing both sides of this argument right now, and it is crazy. It's a very tough position to be in. Health insurance, it is expensive, period. Today's guest, though, is going to give us some insight on how his company is trying to change some of those things by giving some broader options that employers can give to their employees across the board. His company's trying to change the game, make things better, and make health more accessible for everybody. So who is today's guest? Shane Foss. Shane Foss built himself into the business leader and innovator he is today through more than 20 years of tenure as an executive in the medical industry. With humble beginnings at the University of the Incarnate World, Shane would go on to earn an MBA from Rice University with lessons that would last him a lifetime. A veteran of the United States Air Force, where he completed a surgical technologist certificate, Shane would use his love of medicine to fuel his venture into the private sector. Placed in notable leadership roles such as Chief Commercial Officer of ProNerve, the Chief Financial Officer of Employer Direct Healthcare, and partner at Castle Development Group, he'd worked to negotiate complex multi-million-dollar contracts, work in device sales management, create business strategies, and optimize P&L before starting his own business targeting affordable healthcare named Hooray Health. At Hooray, Foss and his team focus on offering peace of mind to lower income individuals and families who face medical challenges, while also providing owners with an affordable way to reward and retain employees. So, hey, let's not delay any longer. Let's bring Shane on in here.
Business strategy.
Shane, welcome to Shark Bite Biz. You, my friend, you just became Shark Bait.
All right. Well, thanks, David, for having me. I'm excited. I love sharks.
Oh, me too, especially when it's Shark Week on Discovery Channel.
I know. It's my son. It always reminds me. My son, when he was really young, he was so into sharks, and he corrected my wife one time when she said, "Oh, there's a great white." He goes, "Mom, come on, that's a tiger shark."
That's cool. That's cool. Love it. So we have a tradition on the show. I mean, it's really the only structured question that we ask every single guest that comes on here. And it's a very, very simple softball question. Okay, I'm lying. It's a loaded question. What's your experience? What's your background? How'd you get where you're at? What do you do? Basically, give us a lowdown. Tell us what makes Shane Shane.
Well, what's interesting is I have a very non-traditional path. I was in the military. I was what they called a scrub tech in the Air Force. So I assisted surgeons during surgery,
Okay.
and it was great experience. But it really drove my passion for healthcare. And while I was in the military, I actually I got my degree, major in biology, minor in chemistry. Wanted to go to medical school, and ended up meeting my lovely wife, and we got married. She ended up getting pregnant, and so she went to medical school. And
sometimes that happens after people get married.
I know, and so it happens, and so I started my business career with Johnson & Johnson selling orthopedic implants, and the rest is history. So it's funny is you look back over your career and you think, how the heck did I end up here? Because I'm in health insurance now, and everything, there's a plan for everything, right? As long as you're constantly learning. And so I spent most of my career in orthopedics, literally in the operating room, leading large sales organizations. One of my closest friends became CEO of a company and called me up and said, "Hey, you want to come help me out?" And that was my entry into health benefits, going in completely blind. And we did really well there, selling the company within 11 months of us taking over. And then I had the idea for Hooray Health. But in between there was a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning, a lot of hard knocks.
Yeah.
And I think that if from a historical standpoint, I look at everything. I'm here today because I'm a learner. I love to learn. Still read a ton.
The healthcare industry itself, especially with you get into the insurance side of things. That's kind of like a hot button issue, I think, from before Obamacare to when the Republicans and Trump did things during their administration to now. I guess it's kind of back on the table with the Biden administration for possible changes I'm hearing and seeing. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. It's kind of, I think before Obama, and this could be wrong, because I was younger back before Obamacare, but it just seems like everything was kind of, maybe it wasn't the best, but it was like stable. And since like the Obamacare has ramped up because there's so many gripes with it, stuff like that, it really seems that it's been more unstable changes, stuff like that. I mean, what's your feeling on that being in the industry?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've been around long enough to understand when I had health insurance, when I had a $300 deductible, right?
Right.
I think I paid for both my kids like $300 out of pocket, and nowadays, people are going bankrupt. I think the only thing I'll say to it is anytime the government enters an industry, you're going to increase the cost. And, you look back in the 60s when Medicare entered the market, we were, before that, we were, you'd pay cash to a physician, $25, $50, whatever for the visit.
I lived in Mexico for 15 years and I loved it to where, I got a sinus infection. I go pay $5. I get, there was a time where I didn't even need to go to the doctor to get, not amoxicillin. I'd have to get a Z-Pack because I'm allergic to amoxicillin. So I'd go,
Yeah. I'd go get a Z-Pack, no prescription needed. But then with the swine flu stuff, they made it to where you do need a prescription
Sure.
for antibiotics. So I'd have to pay $5 to get the prescription. And, I'm thinking like, yeah, it's Mexico, it's cheaper. But there was a time that it used to be that way in our country as well, too.
Absolutely. And so when Medicare came along, obviously it complicated things. And we were stable with the normal insurance regime, if you would,
Mhm.
for a while. And then when Obamacare came, when you're forcing people into a corner and you're not addressing the issue, which the issue is affordability and cost, right?
Right.
And what typical politician that's never run a business, he puts a cap on how much you can make. Well, if I'm putting a cap on you and you can only make 15% of a
Mhm.
dollar, am I going to drive the cost up or am I going to drive it down? Right.
Right.
I have no incentive to drive it down. I'm driving it up. And so, healthcare has really gone awry since then. And, you know, when you look at what Trump was trying to do, he was trying to walk back everything, which, look, I, whether you agree or disagree, I think the system is so broken right now. It's going to be really hard to go back, but,
I think it is too. And there are a lot of things I think in Obamacare that does make general sense. I'd say, things like pre-existing conditions, stuff like that. I mean, there's not. I got to tell you, when I was living out in California, it was. I mean, especially compared to a place like Pennsylvania. I mean, we'd go on like the California marketplace to get insurance, and with zero credits, okay, we can get like the platinum tier plan for maybe like $400 we were paying
sure.
in LA at the time. I mean, there were some bigger brands like UHC and stuff like that that might have been $500-600. But now we're living in Pennsylvania and we were kind of looking at those costs, and those same type of plans that just a year ago in LA would cost me that amount. I think it was like 12, 13, 1400 a person out
Right.
here. And I think it also comes down a little bit, as much as you blame the the federal government, I also think it comes down to how the states actually implemented it as well too.
Well, I think it's actually more than that. I think where the government failed was, if you look, you have these monopolies, and Pennsylvania is a great
Hmm.
example. You basically have two health systems there, right? You have UMPC, and which is the mothership that controls everything. And so when you have California is run the same way. You've got Kaiser, and then up north, there's
Hmm.
actually the state attorney general is suing the health system for Sutton Health for price fixing up in
Hmm.
the in San Francisco area. And so in LA, where you have more competition, the price was literally a third of what it was up north. And so by them allowing basically these huge health systems to gobble up all of their competitors, now you're creating a monopoly. And of course they're saying, oh, we're more efficient, but no, there's nothing. Our health system, it's really an oxymoron. There is no efficiency in the health system. And
Yeah.
so that's where I say, I mean, I think, government from a regulation standpoint, that's what we look for regulation to protect us against, right?
Right.
Is monopolies, creating monopolies. That's why you broke up the Bell system, right? Back in
Right.
the 70s. So that's where we're at. It's a very complex issue. We're dealing with it
Yeah.
every day. Biden, they just passed the new legislation 2 weeks ago, right? And
Hmm.
so we've worked through that bill. And actually, what they did was really nice. They actually, if you are a person that is 150% or below on the federal poverty level, you have tax credits. Basically, you have free healthcare, which is great. I
Okay.
mean, you can go
Does
to
that matter if you're employed or not employed? Employer
nope.
health insurance?
No, well, actually, yes, it does. If you are offered a employer health, an ACA qualified health plan, then that does preclude you from going online or onto the marketplace and getting
one of the things, my biggest gripes, and we're going to talk a lot more about the business side of this stuff in a second, but we don't get someone on here for health insurance daily. And, a lot of people out there are wondering about a lot of this, especially with COVID going around and stuff. It's definitely a lot of questions around there. One of the biggest gripes I think I have with health insurance is that there's the family loophole. Okay. And I don't know if you know exactly what I'm talking about, but for the listeners out there, let me explain this. They define affordable healthcare by X percent. Like if you work for somebody, it's going to be X percent of your salary for the cost of that healthcare.
Basically 9.5% today.
Okay, it's 9.5% today. So the thing is that once you get into a family plan, I mean, the family plan could literally be 50% of your salary in some cases, depending how much you're paid. And you can get no assistance for that. And then you can't even go to the marketplace. You can go to the marketplace and get insurance if it's cheaper, like it was out in SoCal for me. But you can't get any assistance towards that in the family plan. Why? Because I am being offered, that's under the ACA, affordable insurance as a single employee, does not take the family effect in there at all. And I think that is horrible. That's one of the mechanisms that they're using to essentially pay for the cost of the bill in my eyes. And the middle class is really, really suffering. And sometimes I think it limits people from wanting to move up or do better or get out of a certain income group, because it's like, okay, I'm going to make X amount of dollars now, but now I don't qualify for this type of health coverage, and I'm actually going to be making less than I was before. I mean, is that accurate? Am I crazy?
No, you're exactly correct. One of the things that the Democrats just did pass in with their bill, it went from 9.5% to 8.5% of your income, but it actually goes lower down to, so if you're 150% of the federal poverty level or less, your family actually is covered now, which is different than what it was before. And now it's 8.5% up to 400% of your federal poverty level on the exchange for your family. So
that's weird. It's a step in the right direction, but I can tell you right now, if you live in LA and you have a family of 5 and you make 150% of the poverty level, guess what? You're still poor.
Oh no! Look, here's the other issue with that. By the way, I am not trying to. I'm trying to give you the facts on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is, there's more to it, because we, as a matter of fact, I just put together a presentation based on this new legislation, how it's going to affect us, and where we see the opportunities, where we see the risks, which is a great lesson, by the way, for any business owner out there, executive, that you need to make sure that you don't get blindsided by this.
Right.
But where people miss out, right? And we get this all the time when we talk to employers, is they say, well, wait, they can go get free healthcare. Okay, let's take a step back. It is now for the silver plan. Okay. And they will pay. So if I'm a family of 4 and I am 150% of the federal poverty level, that means I make $53,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
The silver plan for my family is going to be a $4,900 deductible. $4,900. That's for the individual. Then the family is going to be closer to 9,000, right?
Right.
So the problem is, that means that I have to have 10% of my available income to cover basic. I'm what we coined the term functionally uninsured. You're functionally uninsured. And so when we sold our last company, one of the things that I went into the doctor and I was consulting. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And, it's always a great time after you sell a company, kind of exit, and you're kind of, you feeling good. You're trying to figure, hey, what's my next deal? And
living the dream.
Yeah, living the dream. And I went into a doctor. My back went out, my neck, and I never had anything go wrong with my back forever, and my back literally seized up. And so anyway, I go into the urgent care, and I have United Healthcare at the time. I have a $6,000 deductible, and I walk in. I said, "Hey, how much is this going to cost me?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a $75 copay." I said, "No. What's the fee going to cost? Because that's just the copay. Because by the way, I have a deductible that I haven't met. So guess what? I'm paying for it." So she said, "Oh, it's $150 global fee." Perfect. I pay $150. They take an x-ray of my neck. They find a bone spur that's probably irritating the nerve root that's coming out of that bone, right? Well, so they gave me 2 injections. So I got an x-ray. They gave me 2 injections, a muscle relaxer and an anti-inflammatory, and send me on my way. Well, 3 weeks later, I get an $800 balance bill. $800. Okay. Normal x-ray cost $25. The drugs and the equipment that they had maybe cost $10 total, all of it together. And they're charging me $800. So I call them up and I said, "Hey, you're in network. I asked what the bill was like. Well, we got carve outs, we got all this stuff." So I'm a pretty smart guy. I understand healthcare. And so I was like, I'm not paying. So it's a carve out. That means you're not contractually obligated, and UNC represents me. Or UHC. So guess what? I'm not paying it. So I negotiated it down. But the problem is most Americans will not do that. So at that point, I said, this is BS. And I just said, look, there's got to be a way to bundle the cost and, protect against balance bills. So that's when I created Hooray Health. And what I did was I identified a problem. I went out and studied the market and found this huge gap. And when I started the company, the gap was here. And now it's like up here. It's crazy in the short period of time. So we've been around just under 5 years. And so what I did was I went out to all these urgent cares and retail clinics. So, CVS, NextCare, Concentra, Walmart, they're all our partners.
Right.
And I went out and I got fixed pricing. So there's no balance bill. It's a $25 copay, no balance bill. So we went, and then we added a mobile app. We push out eligibility. So when you give them your ID card, they're like, "Oh, you're insured." We have this great experience for the user, and our plan starts at $80, right? But what we did was we took a very pragmatic approach to the uninsured or underinsured market to say, okay, we can't have these crazy deductibles. We can't have this crazy out-of-pocket cost. And so what we do is we really focus on the part-time and full-time hourly, and then even the full-time, low to mid salary range employees. And we offer affordable benefits that, you can go in, you can see a doctor for $25. If you want to see face to face, you can go telemedicine and see one of our providers and get your care for your chronic diseases at no cost.
Is this its own standalone health plan, or is this something that is like a supplemental coverage?
Great question. It can be both. So it can be a standalone. It's a fully insured product. We're what you call a limited medical benefit and a accident medical expense policy. So we combine them as one, really to act as one policy. And that way, when you look at the CDC data, 78% of Americans are actually going to go see a doctor. That's where most of the cost is going. 12% of them are going to have an accident. And the average accident is going to cost $4,000. So we have a $5,000 no deductible accident policy. I mean, great example is I had 11 stitches in my hand here in May. I went in, gave my ID card to the ER. They said, "Okay, you're insured." They didn't take a penny from me. Went in, cleaned it up, stitched it up. I went home, got an EOB explanation of benefits. About 4 weeks later, zero out of pocket. I didn't pay anything. We paid 100%. And
I don't know how. Sorry, I don't know how this works. Like, let's just say, for example, I have my employer health insurance with Vision 33. It's through the group plan with United Healthcare.
Okay.
There could be some high deductibles depending how it is. I mean, are you able to use this in addition to that for that lack of coverage in some areas where I have 20% co-insurance that might not apply towards out-of-pocket maximum or something that costs me thousands of dollars out of pocket?
Absolutely. So we have a couple products. So we have what's called our core product, which employers will offer as the only benefit offered. And then we offer what's called our deductible relief plan, which is a non-coordinating gap that sits underneath a high deductible. And you get access to our urgent cares and retail clinics for $25. We will reimburse you for any hospital expense under your deductible. And we have different levels for it. Yeah. So we work in a couple different spaces, and it's really up to the employer, because, employers, they want to do right by their employees, but man, we're making it hard in this industry. Yeah, we're making it. We're seeing this huge transition from bronze plans going up, with these mid-size employers, 200 to 1,000, where they're going up to $750 a month for a bronze plan with a $3,500 deductible. I mean, you can't afford it. And here's the other thing. It's not the right thing for the member either, because the employee, they can't afford the deductible. So they're functionally uninsured. And so
that's a horrible thing, though, because I mean, you hear the stories about people. I mean, at one point I was paying like $1,900, $2,000 a month for our family health plan. Now we've made changes this year to the better, so it's cheaper this year for us. But what we've done is, it's so expensive to actually use it, and to me, it blows my mind. Like, hey, wait. So my son has weird epilepsy that they haven't been able to figure out. Luckily, a doctor at CHOP, this supposed to be like the Dr. House of children's seizures. Okay. He put him on this medicine, and he went from having a seizure every 3 to 5 days, has not had a seizure since he started this medicine, and he's off all the other ones. Amazing.
Wonderful.
But, the doctors always told us, like, hey, if you have a seizure that's going to be 5 minutes or over, 5 minutes, you got to be calling 911. So he finally had one that was going. It was like 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And I'm like, I'm calling 911. He gets there. Excuse me, I got a cough today. Ambulance gets here. He actually was just coming out of the seizure, totally out of it, And ambulance driver's like, yeah, he's still pretty brained and bad, Probably should just get him checked out with how long it was, because it was like 10 minutes altogether, just to make sure no brain damage or whatever. And the insurance plan did cover the hospital. However, they only wanted to pay $100 for the ambulance bill out here in Pennsylvania. And they said, well, it's no non-network. And I'm looking at my plan. I'm like, it says in network, out of network. And even if it wasn't, I have no choice who 911 says for an ambulance. At least I don't think I do. They said whoever they said, and they say, well, we only pay $100. And then the ambulance companies, threaten to send us to collections for $1,500. And I really, really had to escalate this and really make some noise. Like, no, you ultimately have to pay what this says here.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
you pay $2,000 a month for crying out loud. Are you freaking kidding me?
I still had to pay $750 when it was all said and done.
Yeah. No, it's shameful,
And it also, by the way, not only did I pay like $750, but it took 14 months to go through the escalation process with United Healthcare.
Yeah, of course. Again, look, I'm not an anti-government guy or anything. That's not who I mean, look, I served in the military. I'm all about government, but where we're failed by our politicians is, the stat that really drives me nuts is, I think it's up to 76% of all personal bankruptcies are related to medical bad debt.
Yeah.
And when you look at, there's I'm blanking on it. I want to say 1099R. It's a hospital. So hospitals that are nonprofit, they're actually required by the government to write off as donated services, right?
Mm-hmm.
For if you're, X amount under the federal poverty level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember all the details, but you look at who they send to collections and what that looks like. 1 in 5 Americans are sent to collections for an unpaid medical bill. 1 in 5. It's a failure.
I almost got sent for that ambulance bill, and it wasn't that I didn't have the money. I had the money. I paid it
but why,
as soon as it was settled. Right. Yeah. And that's a thing. I'm sorry. I mean, go ahead, send me your credits, send me and, ruin my credit if you want. But I mean, it makes no sense, especially because, he got to the hospital and they're like, yeah, he doesn't really need to be here. We'll just run tests just in case. Exactly. I only went because the dang ambulance driver told me, well, yeah, you should take him just as precautionary,
Yeah. Well, that, the ambulances, it's just like the ER physicians. They are out of network.
Oh, so
strategically, that's what they do. They're out of network strategically. And to me, that's predatory medicine. That's predatory care. And again, that's why a government is here to protect its citizens against that, right?
Yeah.
And
well, it gets worse because, like, what I forgot to tell you was when he was in the hospital then for that ER visit. Okay, it was at first we got the $250 deductible or whatever for just going there for the hospital. Hospital visits were all supposed to be covered. But then every test, every doctor he got out of network, and we got hit with all those bills. And again, this got fixed within about 45 days. They were much better with this than they were. I'm like, no. My plan says absolutely right here. In-network hospital, it is this. I don't care if the doctor's out. I don't get to choose the doctors. That's on you guys. You figure that out. In-network emergency room, $250. That's all I'm paying. And they went and got things rebuilt or whatever, and they covered it on $250. But it was still, that's how messed up this system is. So back with your company, then, who is your target market? Are you working for businesses, or are you working more on individuals? Are you doing B2B, B2C? Are you doing both?
Yeah, so we really focus on businesses and employers. That's our primary focus. When you look at the individual market is very, very difficult. There's a lot of players that they love it, but to me it's very predatory. To be successful there, you have to have call centers that are putting high pressure to because here's what happens in an individual setting. As much as I would love to offer individual product, they're gonna call up the month before, they're gonna buy it, and then they're gonna cancel, right? And that's the problem with the system. So we really focus on employers. If employers don't want to conform with how we're going to enroll and work with us, we just walk away, because it's the system is so screwed up right now, and people are so they're just so what's the word? They're just kind of numb to the they're not looking at their employees as, hey, I got to take care of you. They're looking at it as, oh crap, I got to offer health insurance, right? Which I think you look at Costco, for instance, versus Sam's Club. It is. I mean, I just read an article on it in Harvard Business Review. Costco is so much more profitable, successful. They pay their people 70% more. They give them benefits. Their turnover is nothing, right? And then you look at Sam's, and they're like the exact opposite. They pay the lowest, no benefits. They've got higher turnover. And it's just it's to me, it's a no-brainer, right? As an employer, treat your people right, give them the good benefits, and do what you can for them. But you have to be smart. I mean, look, for us, we use Hooray Health, and we supplement it we use a medical cost share plan called Sedera. And we don't use a major medical. And the problem is, for us being a small company, for a family, it would literally be $2,200, which, look, as a finance guy, just do the math real quick. $2,200 a month, right? Plus the deductible. If I took that 20,000 and put it into a savings account and kept it for the next 10 years, right? I can pay for pretty much any medical bill that's ever going to come my way, right? And so, you just got to watch out for your employees. Sometimes they know what's best for them, sometimes they don't, and you just got to do the work, and that's what we do.
I just wanted to mention, obviously, since I do a podcast, I always listen to a lot of other podcasters, and I would say the king of podcasters being Joe Rogan had on what's he called now? The Elon Musk just changed his title. What is he, like the Techno King or something?
He's the Techno King, and then the CFO is not the whatchamajiggy of coin, the master of coin.
Master of coin, yeah. So I first off, I love it because the media is obsessed with him, every word, and he is excellent for trolling. But my opinion of Elon Musk is I think he's got some liberal views, some right-wing views sometimes, but I think he's mostly libertarian and, for the most part. And I think that's important because he was on Joe Rogan talking about regulation. And he said, hey, look, even though I sometimes fight with the FAA is very, very necessary. And you should have looked at how things were before we had an FAA. So even though I argue with him, there is, and when you hear someone that's as big as him and his mindset on a lot of business, deregulation, stuff like that, saying that there does need to be some sort of standard and some regulation to protect people. The same thing kind of goes with healthcare. I mean, there does need to be some sort of regulation, but then it comes into the question, how much regulation does it need? How much is overkill? Because I've heard from doctors that have been doctors forever that are just like, hey, the paperwork we got to do with this stuff now, it's a burdensome. I know a doctor from San Diego, Dr. DeArpa, who I used to see when I was down in San Diego living, and he 1 year after I moved to LA, he ended up retiring because he's just like, I'm tired, the paperwork's jacked up, it gets denied, and we don't get paid, and I'm old enough, I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the that's not the government, right? That's the, because the government's not paying. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, you talk to most physicians, Medicare is the fastest payer.
Oh, wow.
It's very clean. So my wife's actually a physician. So, and this is what I've dealt with most of my career is on the orthopedic side. And so, when you look at what's really changed and over the last few years, it's really 10 years, it's really insurance companies continue the power surge, right? But also hospitals.
Yeah.
A lot of people think doctors make so much money, but here's what's funny. Doctors on average are making, so if I pay Medicare rate, right? So for a total knee, it's going to be $1,300. Okay. That's what a physician gets to do a total knee. Okay. They're going to make $1,400 with an insurance carrier. But now let's look at the hospital. the hospital will get paid $12,000 for a total knee, and by the Medicare, but they'll get paid 30 or 40,000 by Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Wow.
Do you see what I'm saying? There's a huge discrepancy. And so when you look at where the power band is gone, it's really gone to the healthcare systems. And and the insurers, they're doing, what Obama wanted them to do, which is, stick to their 15% profit margin, right? Which is, it's just asinine. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, and so, if you want to really fix the system, you need a free market system, and you need to set Medicare as the baseline, and make everybody the consumer. So you're the consumer. You need to have transparent pricing as the physician or the hospital, right? To where you can shop and you can see the quality and all the other data. Right now, if anybody tells you, hey, we're the highest quality, ask them, so what are your standards, right? Because really nothing is measured, consistently across, which is insane, right? Yep. The healthcare system has so much data, but they don't want that out there. Blue Cross Blue Shield has these, centers of excellence, the blues, right? Well, they don't want to cut out anybody, so everybody's almost a center of excellence, right? And there's no, I mean, it's just it's crazy. And so they don't want to cut out any physicians for being bad physicians, which is
so
counterintuitive to me.
Let's talk about this a little bit more from the business owner aspect. As I was telling you earlier, we have a lot of small business owners that watch this show. In fact, a lot of the small business owners that watch the show have been on the show too, which is always great. What should they be thinking about then, realistically, when they're looking for insurance that is probably one of their biggest costs that they have, besides the salaries and stuff like that? I mean, what should they be looking at and comparing when they're looking at somebody like how Hooray Health operates versus like a United Healthcare, a Cigna, Kaiser Permanente, or some of those other big powerhouse insurance providers out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a small business owner, you need to look at it. You need to be creative, and you need to find a broker that is going to work with you on alternatives to major medical. And what I mean by that is, it's very inexpensive to pay for your employees a direct primary care physician, right? They get custom, service. It's $100 a month.
That works though if you're in one location. A company like I have, where I work day job, Vision 33. I mean, we're spread out 50 states. We might have in Pennsylvania, for example, I probably have anywhere from 10 to 18 employees. Okay, but spread out throughout the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that case, you go with something like a Hooray, right? Where we're a national plan. You can set us underneath, and then look for something catastrophic. Look, and be open to something different. Like I told you, we use Sedera, which is a medical cost share plan. It's not insurance, but I mean, for my family, I pay with Hooray Health, I pay $600 a month, and I have $1,000 deductible.
I totally wish I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's and the thing is, you have to be willing. So many people are like, oh, I want Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that's it. Okay, well, don't complain about the price. I mean, right. I mean, look, that's my only. I've got people that do that and say, hey, maybe we're not the right one for you, but there's alternatives. I mean, I think there's so many things out there. Accident medical expense plans to supplement to. Non-coordinating gaps where you're using like our product or another limited medical to cover those. It's a very inexpensive way.
We just got one for my wife, and my wife hasn't been to the doctor, I think, more than once or twice in the last 2 years. So very healthy, very good health history, stuff like that. So we figured, like, it's about $1,000 difference between employee and kids or family plan. Okay. And I can get a plan that gives her basic needs and the catastrophic accident coverage that you're talking about. And it was a little under $400 a month. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm still saving $600 a month. Worst case scenario, something critical happens. And it's like, okay, uh, do what we got to do for a couple months until the next open enrollment, and bam, you're back on the family group plan if we need it. But I mean, do you think when you're looking, as an individual, as an employee, making decisions like that? I mean, obviously, it's a personal decision for each person. Everybody's health is different. But in a situation like mine, do you think I did something stupid?
No, not at all. I think the problem is we're putting people in a position to where you have to game the system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unfortunate. The system should be, the more people we have insured, the less risk there is, the less cost there is. But we've created this gorilla that is just taking its unfair share of every dollar out of people's pockets. So you got to look at it differently.
Yeah.
Look. I mean, if I'm you, I'm putting my wife on Sedera. I mean, if she's over 30 and she's in a single plan with Sedera, I mean, you're going to get that for less than $200 probably.
I didn't even know what Sedera is. After this call, shoot me that in an email and let me check it out, because I still believe that I could cancel the one we just signed up for. So
I mean, and here's the reality. Everybody gets scared about health insurance in the sense that, holy crap, what's going to happen to me? And we don't spend that much in healthcare. I mean, look, I go to the doctor twice a year, right?
Yeah.
One for my annual wellness, and usually one I've got a sinus infection or something to get a prescription. That's it. And I'm 50 years old, right? I mean, I went in.
Don't look a day over 49, Shane.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is I went in this year and I had those stitches put in. That was it. I mean, my point is we don't use that much, right? And unfortunately today, I mean, I think if there was more of a market out there for cash pay, there's a really, it's called the Surgery Center of Oklahoma City. And there's some guys that are real pioneers in that space. And they literally started, it may have been 10 years ago now, where they said, okay, you're getting an ACL, all inclusive, $18,000. You pay $18,000, period. And they tell insurance companies come in and say, oh, nope, it's $18,000. That's all we're taking.
Yeah.
And so, it's, I wish that cash market was more readily available. Because, I think, market forces,
it's big.
It really big. And I think we're getting, we're really at a tipping point right now where people are going to have to make that decision. And,
I think a new reform is coming. I don't think this can go on the way it is for another 5 years. And whether that means that we're revamping Obamacare or we're starting from scratch again, something I think is on this cusp. Just kind of like I feel like there's going to be a makeover as far as the educational system goes too. I think two very similar situations with a lot of that stuff. I do have one final question for you, and I thank you. I know that you came on here. We were going to be talking about team leadership, sales, business, starting a business and stuff, but you're a health expert, and it's something that a lot of business owners and business people are struggling with. And I think that you
absolutely
bring a lot more value talking about that specific niche for my audience. So I'm hoping I didn't throw you off too much on that.
No, absolutely not.
I told you it was an unstructured but structured conversation. We hit your expertise. So I do want to ask you one business entrepreneur question to wrap up here. You've started a business. You're in a very tough industry. I mean, can you give us high level, like some of the biggest challenges you've had to thrive in the healthcare space?
Really, for us, our biggest hurdle was the fact that we were different. We looked at things different. The status quo is really, really strong in health insurance because guess what? It's incredibly profitable.
Oh yeah.
So, for us, it took us a few years to really get traction. But once we got the traction, we just exploded because people, it's so funny. You look at, we get comments back from, all of our employers and it's funny. I have a guy that works for us that worked for Cigna for 20 plus years, and he goes, in my 20 years at Cigna, I never had somebody say I love Cigna, and he goes on a regular basis. We're actually going to start tracking how many times I love Hooray. Thank you for making this affordable, and I only paid $25, right?
Right.
And so we, we're kind of the anti-insurance company. We just, look,
I'm the anti-podcast, so I feel you.
What's funny is we had one comment that came in from one of our largest clients the other day, and literally the lady goes, "You actually make me feel like you want me to use my benefits," right? Which I was like, "Hey, that's a huge compliment because that's what our carriers worry about." Yeah. Like, you're trying to get people to use the benefits. It's like, yeah, I mean, look, you're paying for it. Why wouldn't you use it, right?
Exactly. So, no, that's great stuff. That's great stuff. So let me ask you, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So hoorayhealthcare.com, HOORAY healthcare.com. If you want to talk to us about how we can help you or just even guide you down another path, we're happy to do that. From an entrepreneur standpoint, if you ever want to reach out, you can also get a hold of me through the website. Just go into info and at hoorayhealthcare.com and just put my name in there, Shane Foss, and I'll reach back out to you if we can help in any way. Love entrepreneurs. This is what I've done my whole life. And, we got to stick together and, keep the faith. That's all I can say. Yeah. Keep the faith because it's the loneliest job in the world.
Yeah. Plenty of days where negativity creeps in. All of our viewers on YouTube and the millions and millions of you out there on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere else you're watching, you all know this by now. The link for Hooray Health will be down in the description below. Make sure you check out Shane Foss's company. Reach out, harass him, stalk him, whatever you want to do. I don't care. Just support this man and his mission to help us get better healthcare. Shane, thank you so much for coming on to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you, David. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, awesome.
Be back anytime.
Definitely. Once we get a bill that revamps everything up, definitely, man. Get you back in here to break it down for us.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. Cheers.
Wow, that was an awesome chat with Shade, right? I loved it. And yeah, I'm going to tell you a secret about that in a minute. But first, you all know the routine. If you found this interview helpful, if it sparked those warm and fuzzies, do me a favor, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, or if you're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, or whatever, it might say follow. Whatever it is, hit the button. We're an amazing show that brings some really cool entrepreneurs, business-minded people, self-help, growth people onto the show. Join the community, subscribe to the channel. But if it really, really helped you, do us a favor, share this out, get it out on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. I would love nothing more than to see Shane Foss with Hooray Health and Shark Bite Biz trending. Now let's get back to our rock star guest, Shane. Incredible discussion. Insider tip here, okay? This is what I was telling you about in the beginning. We didn't even talk really about his talking points throughout most of this interview. Usually a guest comes on and they're like, yeah, this is what the guest is an expert on. Shane threw that out the window. We were totally off script. So total kudos to you, Shade. And I really loved the story he was kind of telling us about. And I think many of us can definitely relate to his medical bill surprise. It's something I think that happens just way too frequently. I gave you my story, he gave you his story. And, out of his own issue, though, I give him credit because I just complain about it. I tell everybody I can about the negative experience and how horrible it was. But to Shane's credit, I mean, he actually made a company out of that. He did some research, found out that there was this big gap in coverage. And, he ended up providing a service that actually fills that gap. It fills that void, and it's pretty awesome. It's also pretty cool to hear how he built the service around user experience as well as, trying to make it as affordable as possible for not just the lower income people, but for the medium income families as well, too, and allowed them to still use places that they were using previously, like CVS. And hey, I've got to say, when he was a younger company trying to negotiate a deal like that with CVS, I can guarantee you it was not the easiest. It was probably pretty tough for him to achieve. So that's awesome. That just shows the dedication that he has to his Hooray Health. One of the biggest tidbits I got out of this interview, though, I think was his advice near the end of the interview, okay? His advice was to be creative. Now, he's talking to small businesses and business owners out there in terms of healthcare and benefits. Think outside the box. There are plenty of companies out there that are based around one location and one location only. And you can possibly work with a local health group or a doctor or whatever to provide much more superior coverage at a much better cost point than working with these large mega corporations. Or, maybe you still need that big Aetna or United Healthcare coverage or whatever, and you end up adding something like Hooray Health as an added layer of security for your employees. I'll tell you what, in the year 2021, benefits, especially health benefits, are going to be critical this year because of the ongoing pandemic. Taking a step back and just looking at the whole picture of what you're offering to your employees and how you're offering it is going to be pretty important. Make sure it's something that you just don't glaze over and just rubber stamp with whatever your advisor is telling you. Dig deep and see if there's something that you can give your employees, some better coverage, the best coverage basically that your business can afford. Question of the day. What do you think of supplemental health plans like Hooray Health? Have you used one? Would you use one? Do you want to use one? Leave a comment on YouTube or whatever audio platform you're using. A lot of them have areas that you can leave comments on. Let's get the discussion flowing. Again, if you want to be on the show, remember, shoot me an email, interviews@sharkbitebiz.com. We will get each and every single one of you all on this show. Please, I want to give one more shout out. Join the channel, become a baby shark. It's $3 a month, and it helps us produce this magnificent show. But if you want something more for your money, no problem. Go to deadhousecoffee.com. Use the code SHARK. Okay, that's SHARK, and you get 20% off all your orders forever, and all the proceeds help us produce a bigger, better Shark Bite Biz. Now, normally, this is when I would give my little outro statement, but we have some special guests here for us today. I got the little ones here. These are my two most my two most famous fans. You probably noticed my daughter Liv. She's the one that leaves all the comments on the YouTube videos like, "Hey, Dad, I like your video sometimes." But anyways, these two got a little message for you. Go ahead.
He's David Strausser. This is Shark Bite
We'll see y'all next time. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shark Bite Biz. We hope you got some insightful info from this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us through your favorite podcast app and visit us on the web at www.sharkbitebiz.com. How has business changed for you in the 20s? Email us at podcast@sharkbitebiz.com so you can join us and share your story.